brains, Rob Brown brains work.
Yeah,
It's a whole nother, like, it's like a alternate dimension for me.
it really is. I tell you,
It's like you and Buddy are over here, and then I'm on the other dimensional side of it.
yeah. Well,
Like
it's
Roy
like,
G. Bibb, you're the R, and I'm the B. I'm the D.
yeah,
The
I'm
college
in there
spectrum.
like during the night, my mind is racing, thinking about what all we got.
Do
to
you
do.
even sleep?
Yeah,
You do.
I do, and
Like a forced sleep is like propofol, or
I
how does that go
asleep.
for you?
I fall asleep during the night several times, and I wake up wherever I
Uh-huh.
am, and I get in the bed. But hey, it is morning. It is a great day. We are so ready to talk some college basketball.
Yeah.
How lucky it is. We're an SEC show. We're kind of Switzerland. We're neutral, but I am an Auburn guy. He's a Florida guy, but we cover all 16 teams, and we have guests that cover all of them. But how lucky are we to be following two teams that are like,
Hi, welcome to the show, Rob. This is
Hey.
SEC Sideline Sports. Like
Yeah.
and subscribe. Follow us down there in the QR code. Tommy Kane is in the green room. He's welcoming for us. And today we're talking about March Madness, 48 hours away from tip-off. Rob, boy, I'm excited. How about you?
I am, and I'm filling out brackets today.
That's
Everybody
right.
get your brackets filled
Okay.
out. And
Yeah.
We've got Ernie's brackets. Put that QR
We're gonna,
code up.
we're gonna talk all about that stuff here a little bit later. Let's not let the great Tommy Kane wait any longer because he's one of my favorite guests.
Tommy, Wolfpack Productions, come on in here from over in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City. Tommy, welcome aboard. What a season. All I'm going to say is, you know me, I love the ACC, the SEC, all this tradition, but I've never been, when you look at, Jay Billis, Jay Billis, and, Williams, Jay Williams, you sit there, you almost think there's a conspiracy. Duke. And they brought Dick Vitale out of storage. Bless him. He's fighting a hell of a battle, and I hope he's going to be okay. But could you imagine the flip side if it was the SEC doing that? I'm sure I'd be mad too. But as an NC State guy who has worked with ACC Network and Fox Sports Southeast, I guess it's just all part of what makes us wake up and watch shows like Sidelines, because there's always something going on in there. It just makes us passionate. I love it.
It's the best reality TV show ever created.
Yeah, it really is.
Every single day I wake up and the first thing I do is pop on the ESPN website and just see all what's going on in the reality world. I mean, it's just there's always something. There's always controversy. There's always something happening. It's great stuff. That's why we're all fans. That's why we watch and listen to radio shows like this. We just love it. And this time of the year is probably, in my opinion, the best time of the year. I know, but that'll not be as the same with most people in the Southeast. So they talk about football season, but this time of the year, March to me is the best time for sports.
Tommy, and I'm mad because I hadn't been bringing you on as much because it's been such an SEC myopic type basketball year. But you're not just an ACC guy. You know basketball like very few people do. So my apologies. You're going to be back on with us a lot more if you'll come, because
I kind of thought it was personal, Rob.
No.
Hey, Rob, it was.
It was.
Yeah.
See,
Right. It was not personal.
It was personal. It just wasn't personal because it was a personal vibe, but it didn't mean it.
It
had no malice.
This time last year, my beloved Wolfpack had just won the ACC tournament for the first time in 17 million decades.
Yeah.
And so I was like, then I was on the radio a lot with you guys. I was like, oh, I'm dying by my Wolfpack. And then we make a run to the Final Four. And then all of a sudden this year, you guys don't call me to come on. I'm like, oh, it's because my Wolfpack stink.
Right.
They didn't even make the ACC tournament.
Right.
So that is like, okay, I guess I
felt used.
I get on the radio or not because of my Wolfpack. Yeah. That's cool.
You felt used. You felt discarded and used. It's okay.
Well,
it's all right.
I just want to know.
I understand
that we have been so SEC, which we love, but I do love to follow the ACC. My son living in Charlotte has taught me a lot about the ACC. And he says when he goes to games up there with older people that he's doing business with, he said, Dad, it's just different. And it's incredible. I think about NC State. We all do. And your knowledge of basketball, and you think about 14 SEC teams. getting bids, and only 5 ACC.
All right.
And I don't want the ACC or any of these conferences. I wish we could get it back like it actually was, where, Cal and Stanford having to go across the country and the ACC schools having to go there. But looking at it this year, what do you think is happening right now? How good is Duke in your opinion, and how good is the ACC? Compare it to the SEC. I'm going to go ahead and get the obvious question out of the way.
I mean, the records speak for themselves, guys, right? I mean, the SEC has just had a phenomenal basketball year, and I think it's going to start boiling down to – it'll be really – in my opinion, everybody keeps saying, well, it's because of the money that's involved with the SEC schools, and they're able to get these players in and buy them in and all that stuff, and the ACC doesn't have this kind of deep pockets when it comes to a lot of their schools because the football programs don't bring in as much money, all that kind of stuff. I think the jury's still out on that, in my opinion, a little bit. I think that the SEC is just they're had an unbelievable basketball season, probably one of the best in all the conferences. I mean, you got 14 teams in the tournament. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? I mean, and we'll see how they do in the tournament. I think that a lot of them will do okay, but the ACC, I think when it's all said and done at the end of this tournament, Duke will be there in the Final Four, in my opinion. I think Clemson's got a damn good shot, and people underestimate Louisville. Louisville is a good basketball team. They brought in a lot of guys last year from the portal, and they're a good basketball team, and I think they're very underrated. And so, at the end of the season, at the end of the year, when we see all this tournament flush out, we'll see how many of the ACC and SEC teams are left, and then people will start talking about that, right? Again, the reality show will continue. Be like, oh, the ACC's got 2 in the Final Four, the SEC didn't make any, or vice versa, or whatever, and that'll just continue the conversation. But to answer your question, I think the SEC has had a phenomenal basketball year. I mean, they've night in and night out, there's just really high level of basketball. And the ACC has not been quite what everybody expects with the ACC. Yeah. But you guys, that's a high bar. Like the ACC has been just lights out, the best basketball conference. I wouldn't say every single year, but in the big body of work in the decades or whatever, they've always been the creme de la creme of college basketball. And this year they're not. We'll see how it flushes out. I think you'll see a big push for a lot more money to come in from the boosters and whatnot to lift the ACC back up and get better players in. But that's a whole nother subject because that to me makes my stomach sick when I think about that. And it makes me, and then the NCAA just ruled yesterday that they can now start offering deals before they even commit to the school. I mean, it's an SHIT show, if you ask me.
That is. Missouri already does that. In the state of Missouri, if you're an in-state student athlete, you can start getting money for your NIL deal before you enroll. That's disgusting. Basic 101 as a child, how many of us got our allowance before we did our chores? And what were we always told by our parents?
Me.
Do you think if we paid those guys on Monday, they'd be at work on Friday?
Right.
So my dad used to always tell me on construction sites. And I said, he goes, don't ask a stupid question, boy. Get over there, do what you're told, and shut up.
God, that sounds mean. My dad was nice. He gave me my money and said, we'll get it later. Don't worry about it.
But buddies,
we'll hire somebody for that. Don't worry, son. We'll got it. Come over here and watch the game.
But no, my dad is good. But I'll say this, that you know what, Tommy? What's really cool to me growing up.
Well, hold on. Before we go down like history lane, I got to ask you, Tommy. Okay, because Rob, you're going to go into story time, and I got to stop you because I got to ask Tommy some questions about this tournament. So last year, Tommy, we were talking about this same deal, and we were real excited about the SEC. I remember this conversation, and I was told to shut up and put in my place because Rob said the SEC was so good. It's so good this year, and everyone's going to wipe the floor. And then everyone, SHIT, the bed in the first round, although my Gators being one of them. I don't think the Gators are going to do it in the first round this year, but convinced me that that's not going to happen to me this year with this 14 SEC teams. It's not going to be after round one. It's going to be like 3 teams left.
No, I don't think so.
Because that'd be a colossal fail, right? That'd be the worst.
I don't think so. Well, first of all, you've got the numbers in your favor, right? I mean, you got 14 teams, so
I know.
You got to figure half of them. If half of them win, then you're still doing pretty well, right? You got 6 or 7 teams.
That's not a good look, though, is it? If you half of them look.
But look, I mean, it's the tournament, and here's the other thing about it, guys. And I really believe this that there's so much parity. Oh, hold on, my dog's.
Oh, you're fine. We got
so much parity in
Back.
college basketball because of the transfer portal.
Right.
You know, I mean, and I just think that like there's a lot of teams in this bracket that I think could upset the teams that because they just got guys that are like nobody really knows much about like how they're going to play in a tournament, when they're going to gel or do all that stuff, and it's just an interesting dynamic. It really is, and I think that I think the SEC will do fine. Look, they're used to playing each other. You know, when you get in that kind of situation, when you're playing really good teams night in and night out in your regular season, then the NCAA tournament's not much different, right? Because you're playing a big team, you're playing somebody that you want to beat. So
right.
Well, the psychology of it is iron sharpens iron, Tommy, and that's what I think. But last year I was cautionary in saying we've got to prove it though in the tournament. And Brendan and I both watched the SEC take a giant crapola in the tournament, and you saw.
Right.
And I think don't complain about where they send you on the seating.
No.
I'm talking about the coaches and the players. The fans can do it all day long.
Right.
So, and I think a lot of people are saying, well, here's Auburn, a number 1 overall seed. If they win against Alabama State or Norfolk or whoever, which they should, then they play the winner of Louisville-Creighton in Lexington. Now, you can say people in Lexington hate Louisville, but that doesn't mean that there aren't Louisville fans that live in Lexington and won't come from – they don't all live in Louisville. So –
well, that's just not far away. I mean, none of that's all striking distance. That's the thing about this tournament. If you're in this dance, I mean, you're going to fly, you're going to travel across the country. It doesn't matter. I'm with you, Rob, and Tommy. I don't get, if you're Auburn, you're Florida, you know, it's not like you're traveling a football team here. The accommodations are pretty darn good going from place to place. The travel's not so rough. We're not getting on a Greyhound and it ain't Hoosiers. No. And, we're not going to run the picket fence in a big stadium that we ain't never seen before. Like, this is a different deal. These guys are pro. They're treated like pros. And there's plenty of money going around. So let's not get too, pretty bougie travel as far as I'm concerned.
It is very bougie travel. And look, at the end of the day, if you're the best team in basketball, who cares where you play? Like, if you got to get on the road and play, like you can't.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's like, come on, let's go travel. Let's go do this. Let's stay in a really nice hotel. Let's get our per diem every day. Let's get our really freshly cooked, meals before every game and our pregame meals and all that stuff, and eat well and go have fun and win. I mean, if you're the best team, you're going to win. So but again, great reality TV, the NCAA tournament. Everybody's got to complain about something, about where they're seated, where they're not seated, where they're going, who made it, who didn't. And don't even get me started on the Carolina team making it. So,
well, I want to get to that.
Yeah, we want to get to that, actually.
I've got to go to Atlanta. Mallory, the oldest daughter that went to Alabama, my wife's spring break for school where she teaches is next week. So we've got to go to Birmingham on the way. We'll stop there and then get to Atlanta. And provided Auburn gets out of Louisville, which they will, I believe, then they go to Atlanta. So I'll be in Atlanta for the games there that'll be played. And that'll be really cool to get to go there. But Auburn's got to do their part. Everybody's got to do their part. But let's get to North Carolina. Bubba Cunningham, really, I was not in the room when they made that decision. Yeah, but you were in the room right before they did. And all those people that want to be on that committee and all the people that around the country, you could crush their dreams like stepping on a bug. And then you get a $110,000 bonus if your team makes it. And North Carolina has one quad one win. And this is not an attack on you, Tommy, especially you're a Wolfpack. Your coach over there, Dave Doran, I mean, he outright just hates the boys in Chapel. I mean, I like your coach. I like him because you know what? He says, he also is telling the Wolfpack supporters, spend money with us, man. We need you. But what's the general thought over there in the Queen City? Because if you don't think there's money in the ACC, you ain't been to Myers Park. I got a kid that I mentored through Auburn. He just bought a house across the street from the country club there in Myers Park. I was talking to him last week. I call him my fifth kid. Trust me, they've got money. I think it's a lot of old money, which is like Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. I am the only one that'll spend me money. But listen, Tommy, let's talk about it. The coffee's starting to kick in.
The coffee and the sinus medicine, right? I heard somebody taking some sinus
Yes,
medicine.
it is.
Not a good combination, Rob.
I'm a
Not
school
good-
bus driver. All right, what was the question?
The question is, I think you asked me about North Carolina and
Yeah,
the Tar
that's
Heels,
it.
and
Yeah.
you know what? Yeah, one quad one win, and look, to their credit, and this is hard for me to say, but they played great basketball at the end. Not great. They played a lot better basketball at the end of the season. I think they won 6 out of their last 7, and just kind of really started to roll and were playing well. But you don't judge that on the last how they're coming into the tournament. You judge it on the entire season from beginning to end. And they were just not a very good basketball team all year. They had some terrible losses. They had some games where they looked like they couldn't even, they had no idea what they were doing. Hubert Davis was people were calling for him to get fired halfway through the season. I mean, there was this, and it's funny because living here in Charlotte after being in Atlanta for 30 years, I listen to the sports talk radio here locally when I'm driving around. And sometimes I'll still go back and listen to my buddies back in Atlanta to keep up with my Braves and my Hawks and everything else. But, here in Charlotte, it's a whole lot of ACC stuff, which I love. Yeah. And, 3 months ago, Carolina, they were saying people were calling in, Hubert Davis needs to go, blah, 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 blah. And now they're in the tournament. We'll see what happens in the tournament. We'll see how they do. I bet they're going to have a little chip on their shoulder because I think even Stephen A. Smith came out yesterday on ESPN, ranting and raving about Carolina shouldn't be in the tournament. So, there might be some fuel to the fire for them. But overall, I just don't think they're a very good basketball team. I think they're an okay basketball team. They've played well at the end. And I think they really saved the guys at halftime of the ACC championship game, they're getting blown out. It was over. I mean, if that game stays like that, and then Duke wins by the 25 points, I don't think Carolina's in the game. They made a push at the end and came back and made the game pretty decent. I think that solidified got them into the tournament. But was there some shady stuff going on with Boo? And, you get the bonus and all that stuff. I mean, you would tend to think there's something just, I don't know. It's fishy. It's fishy. I'll put it that way. I wasn't there. Nobody was there. So I try not to judge people when I'm not there and see it myself. But it's fishy. And I feel sorry for West Virginia. And the governor, I guess, came out this morning. I haven't watched the press conference yet, but he's, calling for the heads and trying to talk about suing and stuff like that. West Virginia deserves to be there over Carolina, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, for North Carolina and those ACC schools, both Auburn and Alabama beat North Carolina this year, and they're bragging about that. You beat North Carolina, it doesn't matter. That's like shooting a 14-point, 300-pound buck that you've been chasing your adult life, and you finally hit him, and you're never invited back on that farm again, by the way, by the landowner.
Well, right. Well, North Carolina is the name alone, right?
Yeah.
The North Carolina Tar Heels are, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 college basketball programs of all time.
Yeah, of all time.
Along with Duke and Kentucky.
Of all time.
Yeah. And, you're talking about, I think I read today, it's from 1975 to 2009. They made every single ACC NCAA tournament except for 2. I mean, they're an iconic staple of March Madness, right? I mean, everybody remembers the Jordan shot against Georgetown. I mean, they've won a lot of national championships in 93. They won one. I mean, they've won a lot of national championships, and they're kind of an iconic team. And that has a lot to do with the selection committee putting them in because not only that, but they're a very popular team, right? I mean, they're very, I wouldn't say they're like the America's team, but everybody across the country, if you say North Carolina Tar Heels, they're going to instantly think basketball.
MJ.
Right? MJ, right? A lot. Well, the older crew will think MJ. The younger crew probably won't. But yes. But and then you think, we think Dean Smith. We think royalty. We think the best of the best. So that carries weight, guys. It really does when you join the selection committee. And look, at the end of the day, everybody like us and sitting here on radio shows and everybody on ESPN is sitting there talking about it and bitching about it and complaining about it. And there's no such thing as bad publicity. So it's got the NCAA more people talking about the NCAA tournament, which means more viewership, more everything. So there you
I
go.
mean, if I'm not bitching before a playoff or something, whether now football, or even back in the day, but with the power rankings, or it's just not college sports. It's part of the fun.
And
Someone's getting screwed, man. So like, it's part of the fun. It's like, yeah, okay,
well, see,
you're gonna whine and we're gonna talk smack to you. So
and Brendan's right, and you're right, Tommy. They're growing up as an Auburn fan, you watched more ACC basketball. You just did.
Sure.
It was a bigger. And I was talking yesterday. My sisters went to Hollins up in Roanoke, so they were going. They were going to Charlottesville, to UVA and WNL. So I followed Ralph Sampson out of Petersburg, Virginia.
Wow.
I would get on the AM radio, my little white transistor that I still have, and listen to Virginia games, ACC basketball. Hey, you ever run into Lefty Drizel? What would you ask him? Can you give me a foot stomp, Lefty? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. But there's something about what we've just said here. Everybody's talking about North Carolina. It doesn't matter how good they are, but they won 6 of their last 7. And here's where we got a problem. If the NCAA took into account what you did in your last 10 games, I believe Florida would be the number 1 overall seed. But they don't, and that's not right. But they look at the whole body of work. Auburn with 16 quad 1 wins. And then you look at North Carolina with 1. But, when Auburn beat North Carolina in Maui, I mean, they rolled Toomer's corner. I mean, that was a big-ass deal. So now you look at Clemson, Brownell. He's been there a while, the coach. You were with ACC Network. You were with Fox Sports Southeast. Are the fans in the ACC ready to start getting down in the dirt and going up against the SEC schools? Because they've got money at North Carolina and NC State. There's a lot of smart people that have made a lot of money at those schools.
There has, Rob. There has. And I think you'll see, I mean, I don't know how, maybe like, to me, I feel like maybe, the ACC is kind of in a point where they're like, okay, maybe we need to spend more money. We need to like really start dumping more money because our reputation is not going to be good enough to get us the players to come in. The reputation, the school, playing in the ACC, playing against Duke every week, North Carolina, Wake Forest, all the big schools, the Syracuse's, that's not enough to bring the players in. We need to now start spending money. And I think the SEC just realized that earlier than the ACC did maybe, and saying, look, we don't have like these great college basketball rivalries, so to speak, as to the level that the ACC has of a history. So we just need to, our selling point is we got money. Let's go get them. Let's get these players to come in. And I think the ACC maybe was a step behind on that. So we'll see how it unfolds in the next year or two. But again, it's, I think one of the things that's interesting too, is you were just talking about, Rob, which I think is an interesting point. It doesn't really get brought up that much either, is all the great coaches that we had in the ACC growing up. When we were growing up, and the ACC was in its heyday, and you had the Dean Smiths and the Coach K's and the Jim Valvanos and the Lefty Drizels and the Terry Hollins at Virginia and and Bobby Cremins at Georgia Tech. I mean, these guys were tenured coaches that had been there forever and had built these big programs and were famous themselves. They were more famous than the players or anything else. And you just don't see that as much anymore, right? So because all these coaches, I mean, Coach Keats at NC State takes the team wins the ACC tournament last year, goes to the Final Four. Granted, they had a magical run and it was caught lightning in a bottle, and he's fired now a year later. So now we're starting all over. So with a new coach and how that's going to unfold. But it's just, there's so much to me, I think like having those coaches that are in place that are so iconic with the school and building off of those two build up and it adds to the excitement of the school, to the lore of the school, and you just don't have that anymore. I mean, Brad Burnell is the most tenured coach now that Leonard Hamilton stepped down. And, so it's just crazy.
Well, even more, think about Jim Larinaga left Miami. Tony Bennett leaves Virginia. And I'll bet you money, Paul Tudor Jones, a Memphian, is a Virginia guy. They named the arena after his father, John Paul Jones Arena. Paul Tudor Jones is worth, I'm serious, over $6 billion. He will make sure Virginia doesn't slip. And they've got a lot more like him. But it's, to me, losing Coach K, Roy Williams, and then Jim Boeheim after 110 years at Syracuse. Those guys you just knew they were always going to have 23 wins would be the bottom for those guys. And you take all those guys out, and then you look at the coaches that are at these SEC schools, Tommy, that now it's kind of flipped. And I've always said, when the schools and the SEC, when their fan bases get as angry, smashing stuff, cussing, going on binges, when their basketball team loses as they do in football, that's when the SEC will ascend to the top. It takes that kind of, you know what it's like. You played for NC State. You know how big basketball is on Tobacco Road. And hell, I'm old enough to remember Dean Smith smoking during the games.
Right. Right.
I mean, those were some great days.
I'm old enough to remember when I did TV production, and TV trucks were the directors and everyone else smoked in the trucks.
Yeah, there you go.
That's a hot box.
Yeah, that was awful.
Awful. Yeah, you got cigars and cigarettes going by about 10 people in the production side.
Right. Yeah, and you inhaled about half of those cigarettes too. But,
you had to, and if you didn't get a job. So that was the way that worked.
That's right.
Your clothes were ruined.
I think it's exciting to talk about what is happening with what you all were saying, the discussion of how the ACC seemingly, needs to catch up to, in the sense of because the SEC sort of you figured it out with the money and the NIL and all those things. That's kind of what happened with the SEC a little bit in football, where you kind of left, kind of get a little above your raisins, and thought that you were, everyone talking smack about Texas coming in and we're going to be so good and great, and the stoic SEC, and here we are. So you think there's some similarities there, Tommy, in the sense of, maybe it's just hard when you're at the top to have the vision of where the future is going to be, and so and then those who are hungry are always looking for an angle to shoot the gap, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I think so. And like I said, look, guys, this is, we're talking about one season. This is one season where the ACC has been really down, and the SEC has been sky through the roof. I mean, yes, do you see it every year kind of catching up and evening out? Of course you do, because it has to do with the portal and all that good stuff. But I'm not ready to throw in the towel on the ACC yet, saying, okay, they're behind. They got to we got to see what happens or whatever. I think they'll see what's going on, and I think they're just going to have to step up. And I mean, it just, again, guys, it almost makes me sick to my stomach to talk about. Meaning, you have to talk about who's going to bring the most money to give a 17-year-old kid out of high school a bunch of money, or you have to bring the most money in order to get this transfer from Akron to come and play for you because he's going to be a stud. And and it just makes me sick to think gone are the days of wooing of kid because of recruiting and because of what they can do for you as an athlete. It's all about who can pay me the more money. And it gets me riled up, but it is what it is. So we got to deal with it. So
it is frustrating. And I think the market's already correcting it somewhat. But you're going to have more crash and burns like a Carson Beck, who all we know about him going to Miami is his Lamborghini got stolen. He hadn't thrown a pass. He hadn't done anything. Michael Jordan put it best, in our day, we had to do something, then they came to us. And that's why I think the ACC fans, are kind of sitting back most of their money and saying, this doesn't make sense to me. So we'll see what happens. Now, what do you think is going to happen in the tournament? Duke, John Shire, in his third year? He's doing a damn good job. Brownell's been at Clemson for 12 years? That's hard to believe, but you've got 5 ACC teams in there. And when you get to the Sweet 16, that's the report card. I mean, that's when everybody's going to say, the SEC better have 7 or 8, or that's a failing grade, isn't it, Tommy?
It is. I mean, yeah, it is a failing grade. If you do that, my dog is going to drive me crazy. Give me 1 second.
No, you're good. You're good. Hey, while he steps out, Rob, I wanted to say this because I didn't get it in, but you got to know. I know. It's, it's probably tough to take you to a comedy club, Rob. All right, so uh, to bring this up is that reading this morning is that it's likely that the NCAA has lifted restrictions on athletes negotiating NIL deals before enrolling into college. This is an interesting wrinkle that came out this morning following the settlement announced in January. That left the settlement led by the Tennessee and Virginia, and we're talking about all that kind of stuff. I think that's a very interesting thing, and I don't mean to, I liked where the conversation was about to go, but Tommy, before I just didn't know if you had heard about that, more about that, and what's your opinion about, we have a moratorium here not to discuss the NIL because
we're a safe space.
We're a safe space to
sanctuary show.
We're a sanctuary show for NIL, but this particular incident, which I think is a little wrinkle that means a lot.
Yeah,
it does mean a lot. I read it and I was like, oh, when's it going to stop? Like, who's going to step up and just be like, this has got to go under control? Look, and I get it. Like, kids that are coming out of high school and like trying to be recruited. I mean, it's just it's basically now going to be a bidding war is all it's going to turn out to be. And everybody's going to be like, oh, well, this kid's going to say, hey, why don't you come play at NC State? And he's going to be like, well, coach, Clemson offered me an extra $150,000 on top of what you've already offered. So what can you give me? And again, this kid's coming out of high school, hasn't played a minute of college basketball. Who knows what he's going to end up being like? And, and then you're going to go back and forth and it's going to be a bidding war. And I mean, it's just
not all is lost. I'm not even being a homer here, but DJ Lagway reportedly was offered about $4.5 million to go play at Georgia, and he said no, thank you. So like this is because of his sort of like to steal him away in the portal. There are teams that now are just coming at your guys. It's just like we got stacks of cash. Now we can do it legally, right? Now we don't have to put it in a bag. But that instance alone, Lagway's locked into the culture of Florida because we hear it every day, and I'm just using him as an example. But if you get a player that's locked into that culture, I don't want to give up. Maybe it's because I got a 12-and-a-half-year-old daughter sleeping in the other room on spring break. But there seems like that. There is, if you raise them up right, if we can get them to believe in, in sort of the the culture of what we know to be great at say NC State or Florida or Auburn, right? Don't you guys think that I gotta believe in hope? I gotta have hope a little bit.
Of course you would want to. I agree with you. Of course you want it to be that way. But look, money talks, and let's not forget about who like this money's going after. Most of these kids are, and I'm not saying they all are, and I'm not saying they're coming from maybe homes that are low middle class families or low class families that need money. And look, and it's not just their decision of like, Mom, I really want to go play at NC State because that's where my heart's always been. They're thinking, well, Clemson's going to offer me an extra $250,000, and my family could really use it. And their moms and dads are like, yeah, go get the $250,000 extra,
Please.
And so, yes, I would hope you're right. I would hope some kid would grow up going, my grandfather was a big NC State fan. I'm going there no matter what. And they would still stick to that. But I mean, come on, guys. Like, let's face it. Like, if you were going to get a job offer right now for another radio show that said, "Hey, we'll pay you, double what you're making," even though you love Rob Brown and love the Sidelines show, what would you do? So, I mean, Rob. But it's a slippery slope, guys. You're talking about money, and you're talking about
lifestyles and family, and the effect of that. The ripple effect of that money is a big deal. You're absolutely
about all that stuff. And look, here's the other thing about just on a quick little tangent too with the transfer portal and what that means. Like I was telling my buddy the other day, like NC State last year had a miraculous, amazing run. We caught lightning in a bottle with our guys that had come in, all the transfers, and they all just kind of clicked. They had good chemistry. They believed in each other. They had a couple of guys that go to buckets at the end of the game, and it just kind of carried us through. We made a great run. This year we were terrible. We didn't even make the ACC tournament. We were terrible. We were the last bottom two teams in the league. Yeah. This time next year, theoretically, we could be the best team in the ACC.
You're right.
And you could get it all because of the transfer portal. And if the money's there and everything comes in, then it could be a whole different story. Yeah. So it's just it's a crazy. I would not want to be a college basketball coach in today's day and age. You couldn't pay me enough money, I don't think, because you're just a used car salesman, I think.
Yeah. And look, Tommy, we'll let you go. Let's do this again next Tuesday. Okay. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Sweet.
And I'll say this, dealing with people with money, they may have a $10 million account with you, but they're going to raise almighty hell if there's a $50 charge for some, back office charge or something. The money is going to slow down significantly on this. Wealthy people are not stupid. My kids grew up from birth, where they wanted to go. There was never any. I said, hey, look around. Same thing my parents told me. It's in your DNA. And I think that when you're a coach today and you got a roster full of guys that don't give a damn about each other, yeah, that makes it you grew up in an era, God, what I would have given to just hang around Jim Valvano for a couple of road sodas and some Stromboli. And you are so, I say lucky, you're blessed. But,
yeah.
And by the way, look at the press credentials in the back corner.
Yeah.
But
that's my career hanging on the thing.
Yeah.
I got one. I got a couple of those trees working, my brother.
Yeah, I love it. But Tommy, let people know how they can follow you, and we'll do it again next week. But man, my mistake, because I know we talk so much. I just didn't know if you'd want to talk SEC with us, but you know the whole thing. But remember, we're all connected, and we love having you on. And thank you so much. Let them know how they follow you.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Tommy Kane's -talent for all my talent work and hosting and TV and acting work. And then Pack 30 Productions is my production company. I do a lot of corporate video production work and commercials, and in the process right now of working on some stuff with ACC Network to try to get a new show built up. And so we got some things going on. It's good. But I want to know real quick before I walk out of here, who's you guys? I want you one pick for you to win it all and your dark horse. Who's your win it all and who's your dark horse? Have you got your brackets picked yet?
Well,
yeah.
We haven't have ours picked yet. We got a bracket tournament going on here with our guys, but we're picking them today. Rob, go ahead.
Well, my Final Four, I had Kevin Skarbinski made us pick it Sunday night. I picked Michigan State to come out of that region, Florida, Alabama, and Houston. And I have Florida playing Houston for the national championship and the Gators winning. That's just based on how I feel.
Florida playing Houston, that's big. Huh?
Yeah, and I hope I'm wrong on that one with Auburn cutting down the nets. But and I want to see Jay Wright get back into coaching. I was just going to say that.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think he left. Larinaga left. All those guys left because
for the same reasons.
They saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah,
they wasn't coaching. They're not coaching anymore. They're a business. They're running a business, and they don't. That's not what they got in the game for.
Yeah, and we're going to get to a point where we have a bunch of crappy coaches, and that's when this thing's going to blow up.
Okay, so here's my
who's your pick?
I got Duke winning it all. Well, granted, now I've got about 30 pools in different people's things, and so every time it's a little bit different. But Duke's my consistent. And my dark horse, keep an eye on, is High Point. The kid that I've heard a lot about him, haven't watched him, but I've been reading a little bit about him. And they can get up and down the court. They score in bunches, and they play Purdue in that first round. And if they can get by Purdue, then they got probably Clemson maybe or McNeese, and Will Wade coaching there. So we'll see what happens. But I think High Point could be my dark horse. That's who I'm riding. So.
All right, we'll be getting that bracket sheet out next Tuesday, man. Have a great week.
Mine's pretty obvious, Tommy, so I'm just gonna leave it there. So it's Gators are gonna win the whole thing. So nobody wants to talk about that, but it's okay. Nobody wanted to talk about Florida all year. That's fine.
That's fine. Hey, that's what you want. You don't want to be like
I'm good. Well, now it's like the favorite team to pick.
I'll leave you with this, Tommy.
All right, don't ever do that again. Never. Tommy's so cringed out right now.
Tommy, I'll see you Tuesday.
Bye,
y'all be good, man. Take care.
Yes, sir. Be good. Tommy Kane, everybody. He's the best. By the way, before you go, Rob, I'm trying to keep us on. We got people in our green room stacking up, and we got to get to our things. Yeah. So, by the way, if you are wanting to do a really cool bracket, we're talking more about it. We've been talking all about it, but this is a good deal. We have Ernie's March Madness tourney. You win $5,000. If you win, it's individual. You click on this QR code, you go right in, click on the March Madness deal. You're going to have to put an email and username like you do with everything else. But once you do that, you pick your team that you want to be associated with. Say like Rob would pick Auburn, I would pick Florida, and then you're lumped into all the other guys and gals that have decided to fill out these brackets and join this particular tournament challenge. So basically, you just go in, you fill out your brackets. That's it. Pick your team, and if you win, you win $5K. If your team wins, well, then you get the Ernie Trophy. The Ernie Trophy comes in. It's like this. It's hardware on top of hardware. It's like it's like the Stanley Cup meets the Lombardi Trophy that's on acid. I mean, whatever it may be, but this thing comes in and it goes to that city of that school into one of the biggest restaurants or bars. And then people we've some videos teams go in, people win after they win, they put the thing in the bar and they celebrate all year, they drink out of it. It's a whole big fun thing. But we're doing it, Rob and Buddy and I and all the crew here at SEC Sideline Sports Network. And we're all kind of Auburn and Florida people. So we're pitted against each other. So if you're an Auburn fan, go fill out this bracket and join the Auburn team with Rob and them. And if you're a Gator fan, well, then come join my team and Buddy's team over there. And you'll see it on there. It's very easy and it's great. So it's fun. Enjoy. I know we're filling out a million brackets, fill out our bracket, because guess what, guys? It helps us out a little bit. And that's all I have to say about that.
And that's a lot. It makes sense. Hey, let's bring in Yancy Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch him Monday nights in the Memphis market, Sports 56 WHBQ.
And we also have got
all over Mississippi on Super Talk Mississippi. And then Rodney Orr, Tighter Insider in Tuscaloosa. It's only $48 a year since 1996. Now we're going to have the 30th anniversary celebration on this show here with Rodney. Rodney. We're going to talk about it, but catch all your Alabama information also Tuesday nights, 6:30 p.m. WVUA TV 23. Rodney Orr, Gary Harris, our good friend, Tighter Insider TV. It's 30 minutes, 22 minutes of all Alabama content. Gentlemen, start your engines, man. Been talking some college basketball. We'll try to talk some football this spring, but right now, both of your schools, Ole Miss and Alabama, are going to the tournament. And Yancy, that reporter that asked Chris Beard the question, what's it like for a guy like you to be? I love that response, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it kind of threw him off guard right there.
Yeah. For a guy like you,
Yeah.
This is not his first tournament. He's already played for the national championship in his fourth year as a head coach.
Yeah, Texas Tech, they lost it right there at the buzzer on a corner shot. So that was a tough one for him, no doubt.
Yeah. What are your expectations, man? And we'll start with Yancy and then go to Rodney. But the Rebels in the tournament, Chris Beard, the guy, he can slow the game down like few coaches can, and his teams will wear you out on defense. What kind of chance you think they got? How far can they go?
It's all on matchups. I think it's a good if you got a real firepower offense and you got 6-7 guys that can really light it up from outside like a Florida or an Alabama, it's a tough matchup. But you look at the first round matchup, and we'll see later today who wins between San Diego State and North Carolina. But both of them, they're not really a 3-point efficient team. So that's really look at.
Yeah. Well, Yancy, he'll come back with us. Yancy, you were talking about the matchup.
Yeah, I think it's a good matchup in the first round with either team. They're a lot like Ole Miss in the fact that they're not really a rebounding dominant team. Neither one of them hits 3-point shot, 10, 12, 14 times a game. I think it's a good matchup in the first round. Iowa State will most likely be the second round matchup if Ole Miss were to advance, and they're missing their big man who's so dominant. So, getting to the Sweet 16 would be a heck of a season for Ole Miss.
Yeah, that would be a hell of a year for anybody in the SEC. Rodney, Alabama last year didn't go into the tournament with a lot of momentum, but they got to the Final Four a year after being the number 1 overall seed and having a player like Brandon Miller. Alabama can go toe-to-toe with anybody, but there's a question from Roy D. Mercer's ghost, and it is, what's the health status on Grant Nelson? Because I think he is more important than anybody on that team because he can shoot, but he really is a hell of a rebounder.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's Fairly optimistic. I mean, he may not play in the opening round game against Robert Morris, and assuming Alabama won that one, there's a chance that he could play the Sunday game, whether that's what St. Mary's or Vanderbilt. So, we'll see. It remains to be seen. But right now, I think it's fairly optimistic that there's a chance he could play Friday morning, but maybe it's more likely on Sunday. So it doesn't seem too serious. And Nate Oates said they escaped one there.
Well, Mark Sears, let's talk about him. When he's scoring 25 or 30 points a game, that's not a guarantee Bama's going to win. When he scores fewer points and there's more of an even distribution of the balls, it seems like Alabama's better, but it's nice to have him on your team. Talk about Alabama's strengths and also worst nightmare matchups.
Well, I think anytime you have, if you're going to have a great run in the NCAA tournament, your pieces have to come together. I mean, that may be one guy, obviously one strength that pulls you through one game, and we saw that last year. I mean, and the contributions that were made by various ones. Grant Nelson got extremely hot. There in that stretch, Jaron Stevenson had some moments. Different ones. And I think that's the key is just the overall contributions. But I think Mark Sears, obviously, I think I saw a stat yesterday. He's only hit 4 of his last 26 threes. So what does that tell me? That tells me he's ready to break out. I mean, it's a numbers game. When you're a shooter, it's a numbers game. Keep shooting and they're going to start falling. So maybe that means he's going to hit a hot streak. Again, I think that there were so many expectations of this team coming into the season, Rob. Fans, Alabama fans, they were, thinking national championship and all that kind of stuff. But so I think right now there's some disappointment, and I'm not saying it's justified at all. It's not. This is basketball. It's highly competitive. You play in the SEC. It's the greatest conference, most competitive. But I just think Nate Oates, we're going to find out a little bit more. And what I mean by that is we've seen him time and again, in these situations going in. He did it last year. They were down and they responded in the right way. So I think they've got a good draw, Rob. I really do. I mean, I think Alabama has a good draw.
Yeah, and you embrace it. Certainly, the opposite. The coaches complain about where they get seated. That trickles down to your team. But Oates is so competitive, and his team will be. Whatever they say about Grant Nelson, he's going to be playing. We all know he is. He's a competitor, and that's going to be fun to watch. Alabama. I think they're going to get. I've got them playing down to the Final Four. Kevin Skarbinski made us pick a Final Four Sunday night, but I've got him in that bracket in my Final Four. But I'm going to fill out a bunch of brackets.
Well, who did he pick?
He's got Alabama playing Auburn for the national championship.
Oh, okay. He's still sticking with that. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
Yancy, you boy. Look, I look at Chris Beard, and again, he's. I think he's having fun at Ole Miss. This tournament, what are the expectations of the Ole Miss fans? Because they got a road win at Alabama. They've got some really good wins this season. They beat Tennessee. Damn. And that kind of just gets, people just look right over that and say, well, they lost, 7 conference games or 6, whatever. But look who they went on the road and beat Alabama and Tuscaloosa by 10, held them to 64 points. If they can hold Alabama at Coleman Coliseum to 64, damn, that ought to translate to success in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean they're playing good defense. They were not playing well defensively for a little stretch there, and it kind of started back, turning around, played really good defense against Tennessee, the next to last conference game, and they played really good defensively in the tournament, especially against Auburn. They locked Auburn down and had a chance to win that game, and Auburn just kind of took it over there, tied up with a couple minutes left. And, if they can play defense like they've been playing the last 4 games, they got a shot. I mean, you look at, like Rodney was saying about Bama, Ole Miss got a good draw as far as matchups. Their first 3 rounds they play could be against teams that are not very efficient from the outside. And, so you could see them play Michigan State if they were to advance to the Sweet 16. And Michigan State is not a 3-point shooting team. So, it's about the firepower. And, Alabama and Auburn and Florida seem to be at a different level than everybody else, besides maybe Auburn, we'll see from the outside. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. The NCAA tried their best to keep the SEC teams separated, but there's only so much you can do when you got 14 teams, right?
Yeah.
As Rodney just said, Alabama could play Vanderbilt in that second round matchup. So, like Alabama, I think the matchups are favorable for Ole Miss in those first 3 rounds. If Auburn were to advance to the Elite Eight, they would be playing for what, a fourth time this year. So that would be, I don't know if that's ever happened before, but that would certainly be interesting.
Yeah. Rodney, what are some compelling storylines that you see going on, maybe with Alabama or just these SEC teams that give them a chance? Because, last year, and we talked about it earlier in the show, the SEC, there were really high expectations going into to the tournament. But, you had Tennessee got to the Elite Eight and Bama to the Final Four. But for as many teams as the league had, it wasn't that. So what are you seeing happening this year?
What do I see happening?
Yeah.
Well, I
Just
mean, I think it's
prediction.
interesting. I found, I don't know where Brendan went, but his Florida Gators they look like the team to me. I mean, they go into this tournament, just by the eye test, and I haven't seen them all, but they're extremely impressive. I mean, they've dominated Alabama. I mean, it's like, I mean, uh, I just watching the game Saturday. I mean, and I know Grant Nelson got injured and that kind of, but it just seems like to me that Florida's an extremely not only a really talented team, well coached, and all the things that they do, but just extremely confident. I mean, I didn't sense as the game moved along a lot of confidence from Alabama in that game. So I look right now and I say, can anybody beat Florida?
Yeah. Well, Florida seems like their culture, those guys love each other. They love their coach. He loves them. And they're all playing for each other. You don't see a lot of fighting and, cat fighting over on the bench. Guys get their minutes, and Yancy, you know what I'm talking about. But
Oh, I do.
but
I
I'm impressed.
know where you're going.
Well, I'm impressed with that. But I also think, and Doug Dean has pointed this out brilliantly, don't buy into the narrative, bench Chad Mazzara, he's the bad guy, like it was Nick Fairley's the bad guy. And Philip Marshall pointed out 2 penalties that entire season. We always have these villains that we want to get, but damn it, you got to put your team first, Yancy. And I look at a guy like Chris Beard. Man, that reporter the other day, he just, his silence and his pause in his response was powerful. I've watched Chris Beard a long time. Y'all have too, from his days in Little Rock. What about kind of along the same line of what I just asked Rodney? Yancy, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's Matthew Morrell playing on one leg is really kind of hurt them throughout the season because look, he's their highest paid player, number one, and number two, he's the guy that really can fill it up from the outside. I mean, he's a career 38.8% 3-point shooter, and he's shooting in the upper 20s this year. It's playing on one leg is tough, and
Yeah.
he's gonna have to have surgery. As soon as the last dribble has been bounced this season, and if he can just somehow give them some outside presence and get somebody besides Padula that can hit that shot consistently from the outside, it'll really help them out. I mean, you look, Beard's done a great job with the roster he has. He doesn't have a Florida roster, an Auburn roster, or an Alabama roster. It's not as explosive, but he's a hell of a coach. He's going to play great defense. He's going to probably out scheme any coach that he plays. He's one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in the league. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. I mean, the guy gets every ounce out of every player on that roster. Rodney, looking at the tournament, are you? And let's go to Tuscaloosa. You mentioned Alabama fans. Do you see them on your message boards and your forums getting angrier than ever at a loss as opposed to 10, 15 years ago? Because I sense that, and that's why I think the SEC is on top of the basketball world right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, of course, Nate Oates has elevated the expectations around here, and, Alabama fans.
Well, that was a lot of question and we lost him. But Yancy, I hope Rodney will be back, but you see what's happening at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has been, Andy Kennedy was there 12 years and averaged like 21 wins a season. And he's, by the way, having a lot of success. You know him. He's from Louisville, Mississippi.
That's right.
I used to run the Heart of Dixie Triathlon, and from Louisville, we would go to Lake Teocata and end up at the Neshoba County Fair. Great. But, the expectations, Rodney, I know we lost you for a sec. Talk about what these Alabama fans expect now, because I know a lot of them, and they're all dialed in on basketball. Even the ones that said they didn't care, they care now like they never have. Man. Every time I ask him a question, we lose him. Yancy, kind of.
It's his cell. He's on a cell phone. So
okay.
He's probably in a bad cell.
Yeah. But Yancy, talk about that with the Ole Miss fans, because I know there's a ton of them in Memphis. They know basketball. They know it really well.
Yeah, man, if you're winning, the Ole Miss fans are all behind you in basketball. But if you start losing, they'll leave you in a hurry and just trying to. They might check your score out the next day in the newspapers. So it's a fickle fan base with basketball. But you start winning consistently, they will definitely be as good as any fans in the country. I mean, we've seen what Bruce Pearl's done there at Auburn. Probably kind of the same mindset, right? When Bruce entered there, you're winning at Auburn. They'll be right there behind you, but you start losing some, and they'll leave you and start checking out spring practice and football. So, at Ole Miss, how big baseball is, and
Yes.
it's a unique school where your buddy over there, Florida's as good as their baseball program is. It's one of the elite programs in the country, but their fan base is not as captivated as it is in the state of Mississippi with college baseball. So,
you're right.
you start losing a little bit in basketball. It's right there during baseball season, and they're over there at Swayze and forgetting about you. So,
well,
but
hold on there, Yancy. I got to say to you though, but one thing about people have to understand about the Florida Gators, as far as where the University of Florida exists in Florida. You get an idea of what Florida is, but Gainesville is North Central Florida, which is it's small. It's a smaller town. Alachua is the county. It's a small area, and we're kind of in the middle of nowhere in horse country, right? So we're very influenced heavily in the southern. You get more people that seem like from the south up here than you do in Miami and in Orlando and Tampa and all the way down. I mean, so I think that baseball here, because it's something to do, right? We don't have Texas, we don't have Texas League baseball. We don't have all that's down in Sarasota, and we don't drive 2.5-3 hours to go watch minor league baseball or or spring baseball. I'm just saying that you grow up a Gator here, and I think that's more as a southern perspective. I mean, you prove me wrong, but I think that because you'll go to baseball here and it's a packed park every single day, and it's hot in July. June, excuse me, in Florida, like especially up here, and they pack them out there every game.
Well, I think also Florida has been good for so long, and track
Oh,
and field and swimming and
Oh, track
baseball
and yeah.
before a lot of other schools in the SEC were. But
yeah.
I'll say this: you go to Oxford, Swayze Stadium, Yancy, you know them. They've got 3,000 or 4,000 people on the waiting list to get season tickets. And baseball in the state of Mississippi has always been the number one sport to attend. I mean, Mississippi State, and Rodney. When we get him back, I was going to ask him about their stadium. They did a retrofit on that and Sewell
Mhm.
Stadium, but you look at Florida, it's just kind of a given. Like, remember when they put the major league teams in Tampa and Miami? The crowds weren't anything special because most of those people down there are Yankees fans or Red Sox fans. And you go to a lot of those towns in Florida, you can't get the SEC network at your hotel. By God, you can get the Big Ten network because there's a lot of big, people.
Well, yeah, that's a regional thing too.
Yeah,
So
it's really,
yeah, because
but
they're some will required to carry that broadcast. But like, yeah, I hear you, and I think it's the same. As far I was just saying, as baseball as a whole, we keep losing Rodney. Baseball as a whole in the South, I think, and college baseball has a tradition as much as football does in certain schools. And
Yeah.
I was agreeing with. I think Florida didn't
It
start
does.
there, but I think it's sort of now. Especially last 20 years, but it's becoming a thing. Where people get excited about baseball season here.
But it's so good at Florida. I mean, what Kevin O'Sullivan, 9 or 10 College World Series, Yancy. I mean, that guy's.
Ugh.
I'd love to talk to him. And here it
Contract
is.
is through I think 2030. I think he's got it locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but Florida's like California. You can play all year long. There's
Right.
so many good
yeah,
players in the state of Florida, baseball in California. But I'll give you an example. During this Sunday matchup with Ole Miss Arkansas during Selection Sunday, there were, literally 10 times the amount of action and threads and people talking about the Ole Miss Arkansas game, which Ole Miss choked in the ninth inning, than there was about the selection. So,
yeah,
and that's at the peak of it, right? That's at the peak of
Mhm.
basketball. That's how big baseball is. I mean, it's what everybody talks about. I'm at lunch yesterday, and all the conversation was centered around, can you believe Ole Miss choked again and bad defense in the infield? And it wasn't about, hey, what's this first round matchup in basketball? I mean, it's all everybody talks about. So it's just kind of a different environment in the state of Mississippi, whereas Florida is so good at baseball because you can play it year round there. It's just the passion for baseball in the state of Mississippi. And I've done travel league all over for 12 years with my son.
Mhm.
It's different. It's just different in the state of Mississippi. That's why you can have 10, 12,000 people on a Tuesday night game playing slippery rock in the state
Mhm.
of Mississippi, where you're lucky to get 1,000 in other states.
Mhm.
It's
yeah.
just it's really important. But having said that, Beard has done a wonderful job, a fantastic job, much like Pearl did, of really getting the fan base emotionally involved. They're scarred. They're scarred from the AK days where you start off good and you got 2021 wins, but you're right there on the bubble and you miss out and you're playing
Yeah.
in the NIT. And so, what happened
Yeah.
last year in Beard's first year, they start off what 20-3 and then proceed to
Yes.
lose 9 out of their next 10 games and miss the NCAA. So,
Right.
you kind of got to get a belief, and the fan base is getting that belief. You give Beard 1 or 2 more years at Ole Miss, and he's going to have a rabid fan base, much like Pearl did over there at Auburn.
Well, and I see it. The Memphis Ole Miss people, and I know them, a lot of them. They make a lot of money, and they're getting serious about back in Ole Miss, and they're when you go to a baseball game and you go down to Oxford, man, that stadium, it's so fan friendly. It's like the Major League Baseball parks are today. They got that from places like that. What they have at Ole Miss. Back to basketball, and we'll wrap it up. We lost Rodney. He may have been abducted. I'm not sure, but I know he was on his phone. But Yancey, this tournament, we got
Definitely
14.
Yeah.
abducted. Yeah,
Yeah,
we got to call the
abducted.
cops. Yeah.
Yeah, call the cops in Tuscaloosa.
APB Rodney Orr.
Rodney Orr, we got to have him. But you've got 14 SEC schools.
Yeah.
in this tournament. So, obviously we knew South Carolina and LSU weren't going to get in, but what do you think's going to happen? Give me your Final Four, because we won't talk to you again until next Tuesday, and then we'll already be into the, heading into the Sweet 16.
Well, believe it or not, I've got Auburn advancing. I've got Auburn going to the Final Four. I've got Florida going to the Final Four. I've got Alabama going to the Final Four. And Florida's got the toughest draw out of all those as far as matchup wise. Look, this is all about Florida. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if Florida gets beat, it's kind of like 2022
Yep.
college baseball, where Tennessee had one of the greatest teams
Yeah.
ever, right? And
Yeah.
Notre Dame beat them. Then it opens up everything. Then everybody has a shot.
Yeah.
Everybody in this tournament is rooting for Florida to lose,
Yeah.
And then, until they
It's kind of
lose,
like you like that though a little bit.
it is. I mean, Florida is playing at a level right now that's just they're so efficient from the
Yeah.
outside. They can rebound. They don't turn it over. They're just
I mean, the
damn
guard,
good.
it's just the guard play. I just feel like, watching them. I think that's what great guards in the tournament. I think you just see great things. I think I'm excited to watch Florida play in the tournament as a fan and as just a fan of basketball, because I really like what Todd Golden's done there, and I like watching him play. I think that's I mean, you guys don't tell me, but I like watching just Florida play anybody.
I like watching Todd Golden handle his team the way he does.
Yeah,
I think
he's amazing.
His temperament, Yancy and Brendan, is really. I mean, that it'd be easy to play for him. In my opinion, the heart and soul is that guy Walter Clayton Jr. from Lake Wales,
no
Florida.
question.
Because he is so cool under pressure. I think it comes from his football days, because he had 5 or 6 offers to play Division I football. Hey, Lauren Meadows says, tell my guy Yancy hello. Lauren Meadows, we'll be on tonight with him on this very channel, Yancy, 9 p.m. Eastern, on the Buddy Martin Show. I get to be on there with him and Brendan and Franz and whoever else is on. And this channel's growing. Yancy, Kevin Skarbinski, Scarbo Knows, launched his show here on this channel Sunday night. And
we're like a little baby incubator for all these guys who want to
love to have you, Yancy.
Come on,
we need a Yancy show, an Ole Miss show. So we're waiting on you to come to us.
That's what I heard in the cornfield.
Guys, I got on the bottom bracket there. I've got Purdue making it on that bottom bracket. So that was my fourth Final Four team. I don't know. I don't think Houston has enough horsepower. They play great defense. They're very physical, but I think I like Purdue on that bottom bracket.
Wow, Purdue.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
Yep.
a year after Zach Edey.
You know what? Yancey's probably. I think disrespect to everyone else. I think Yancey's probably like secretly the smartest one here. I think he's Mensa, and I think because he always says these things that are like come to be true. He's like a prognosticator, but he drops these little dimes everywhere. So,
well, Yancey, I'll tell you another one.
Dropping dimes, Porter. That's what you do all day. You just dropping dimes, dog. That's what you do.
Yancey, I tell you, my outlier, if you want to call it a dark horse, I do like the Vampire. I like Rick Pitino's St. John's.
Is that really a dark horse, though?
Yeah.
They're a 2 seed, but
I mean, but
I don't think
easy.
people.
It's the tournament, though. I mean, it's Pitino. I mean,
if you wanted to go for a
would
team,
you be shocked? I would.
That's way out there that nobody's given a chance. Probably it would be Clemson. Clemson, CLEMPSON, Clemson. That's how they. That's how. Yeah, but I think they would be one.
What kind of firepower do they have from the outside, Clemson?
I mean, I just know that they are a team. Here's the thing: in the ACC this year, it's not a great league, and then you get into the tournament, you live in. Look, you got to be hot. If you're not hot that one day, hey, you're done. And the teams that shoot a lot of 3-pointers get a lot of rebounds because you're shooting out on the perimeter. But if you can also, what makes Florida better than other people is they can crash the boards with those 5 big guys, and they can light it up from the outside. So if
everyone
the outside
rebounds, everyone eats.
Everybody.
Here's the
Yeah.
deal with St. John, though. They got to eventually play Florida to get to the Final Four. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so hard. I mean, you look at them, and again, I mean, they could have 3 or 4 guys that are off and still drill you.
They still
Well,
I mean,
we got guys in the bench that you've never even heard of. That Buddy was talking about it last night. Or was it last
Denzel
night?
Aberdeen.
Yeah, they got guys who be like, he'll come out shoot 3-pointer, and be like, where the hell did he come from? Like, I mean, that's Florida's deep.
now. Yeah, if Auburn can just they need to like get together and hold hands before this tournament and just kind of maybe get it all out of their system and get all the squabbles and the
Might have to sacrifice a
missing
chicken or
matches and
something.
they're gonna
Yeah.
have to do something. If they can just
Yeah.
get all that whining
Rally
out
cap
of them,
boys, we gotta put it in.
they
Do a
can
dance.
they
Get that.
can
They
give
they
Florida.
need some sage. They gotta
Yeah,
burn it
they
off.
can-
They got some
They
juju on
can.
there.
They got the talent. They got the
No
roster to
kidding.
give Florida all they
Yeah.
want. They really do.
But they've got it. You're right. They're being so dramatic when someone touches you. I remember seeing Blake
gosh.
Griffin. Blake Griffin's the worst flopper ever when he played for the Clippers against the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
He would be booed when he walked on the court because everybody knew
I
that.
love
But
guys like that. I just
Yeah.
love those guys. Like
Like,
Bill
what-
Lambiers of the world. I just love.
I loved Lambeer. Boy,
He
who'd you
just,
want in a
he
bar
just bite
fight?
your nose off and just
Yeah.
spit it out in your
Lambeer.
face.
Y'all know where he
That
played his
whole
college
Detroit
basketball.
Piston team would just kick your ass.
They
Man,
would.
those were fun days. Those,
No,
Right,
right.
he
I wish
played
the
his-
NBA.
Oh,
Yeah.
The
I
NBA's
loved it.
lost its soul. Just think about
Oh.
all the players and the teams and the drama
that was
back
the best.
then. The triple headers on NBC back in
The
the
best.
late
They lost
80s and
it.
90s. And just,
I tell you,
I
who
don't
killed
know.
the NBA was LeBron James. He's not Michael Jordan, and it's all about
He's
him.
just a product. I agree with you, but I just think I don't know what happened. I mean, that's a whole nother show.
Maybe
But
yeah.
it's money. Just money.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
money,
it just,
yeah.
you know,
Attitude.
You pay
Jordan
these-
and Barkley and all those guys, they were making 2-3 million at the peak of their career, which was a lot of money back then. But now they're making, $500
Oh.
million. It's just,
Yeah, and
Whoa.
they're all enterprise. They're all corporate players. I mean,
they're all
I don't
corporate
know.
byproducts of a business. Adam Silver, just by looking at Yoda or Adam Silver, whatever, I don't think he's ever played a sport in his life. Maybe stickball, but that's about it. Look, we're gonna wrap it up. Yancy, we lost Rodney. I hope he's okay. But Yancy, Rebel Yell Hotline, check him out. And look, we're building this network. We'd love to have your Ole Miss Rebel show. And I'm telling you what, folks, this guy is wired in. Okay. So Yancy, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week. I'll talk to you before then. And if I come to Oxford, let's go to lunch at the Tallahatchie Grill downtown, or maybe the Downtown Grill or City Grocery. There's a lot of great places down there. But thanks a million for being with us.
Thank you, and everybody. Have a blessed day. Thank you.
You do too.
Thank
All
you.
right, let's say
Yancy.
something
Smartest
about
guy ever. I think.
he's very smart. I mean, he's like a lot of people from Mississippi
Country
that
smart.
I know. Yeah, he's
country smart.
really smart. And
People don't
I
know
got
what that means.
few conversations are like, you get down to Oxford, there's a lot of great writers. You go to Square Books, and Yancey's one of them. Hey, Winter Timber Outdoors, folks. I talked to him yesterday. They are open every day of the week. Turkey season, get your gear. Box calls, slate calls, the diaphragm calls. You've got shotguns, handguns, all of them, over 2,000 of them. Shotguns, rifles, pistols, in store in Athens, Alabama. Let them know you heard about it on Sidelines. They're open every day of the week. They're growing. They're building a new store in Auburn. They're going to be building them in SEC towns. So pay attention. They're big and they're from the South. Proud to have them. Also, Landers Ford, people, any day is a great day to get out and go look for a new car, truck, or SUV. Look at all these opportunities right now. The Broncos, the F-150s, that's what I drive, four-wheel drive. Their service department will take great care of you.
I need to come get one of these vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I think it's
Brendan-
just time. I need a vehicle. I'm due. I got about two great. My Terry Bradshaw. Chevy. Chevy's been good. It was over 200,000 miles on it. But I've always been a Ford guy, and I need to come down and get my. What is it? My Bronco. I had a Bronco. I had a Bronco too when I was a kid. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I drove one.
I just drove in MJ, one of our friends, and he bought a new Bronco from Landers back in late October. We rode in that up last weekend, and they're just awesome vehicles. And
You got to
Brad
work some
Bellamy,
magic me with Brad.
yeah. Brad said to call him. So if
All
you
right.
got, if you want to go in there, they'll work with you. They'll
We'll do
spend
a whole
30 minutes.
video
to
about
get
it, Rob. Like me and you will go to Landers.
Yeah.
And then we'll walk in and we'll get the whole service. We'll video, bring everybody into the whole thing.
Well, and they've got
it's a
about,
great experience. Those
yeah,
guys
they
are
do.
fantastic.
They make the experience so enjoyable.
They do.
Poplar in Houston, Levy, LandersFordMemphis.com. They're open every day but Sunday. And remember, you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers, you probably paid too much. And they're right down the street. And guys, I was in Hewlett and Dunn yesterday, took them some milkshakes in there. They've got a 50% off sale, getting all the winter gear out, and they're bringing in the new spring fashions for men and women. The boot selection out there, off the charts. They've got it. Take a picture of that QR code, hewlettanddunn.com. And also, if you want to get boots restored, they'll take care of that for you. What a great show, Brendan. We'll have Tommy Kane on next week. Love that guy. He knows the ACC, SEC, knows it all. We'll be back on tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on this channel on the Buddy Martin Show with
We're
Lauren
coming
Meadows.
back on this show again.
I mean, back on the Buddy Martin Show on this.
I know. I think it's like this time of year. It's this is. You should see my studio. It's pretty gross.
Oh, I know. Brendan, tell people real quick about something. When you're in the studio, and from the TV trucks, you were talking about all the monitors.
Mm-hmm.
You've got like 7 monitors in there, and explain to people, because a lot of people say, Brown, I missed the show, but they can watch it whenever. Mm-hmm. YouTube, Facebook, X, then you put reels out on Instagram and all. Yeah. But the best way for people, if they're having any technical problems, is to do what you tell them. I mean, so tell them the easiest way to watch this show or share it.
I just think you want to know where to find it. First of all, if you're watching right now, you know where to find it. So I'm not telling you.
There we go.
So there you go. It's solved. Like, follow, subscribe, go to YouTube, Google it, SEC Sideline Sports Network. We come up. Listen, we're new and involved, and we're changing. But right now, if you were in, your Facebook, you find us at Sidelines. You can just Google that. You'll see all the videos and things from the past. And if you're not a Facebook person, then cruise on over to X. And if you just look up let's say Rob Brown _ Sidelines, I think is what. Oh no,
at Rob Brown _
Yeah, sorry, at Rob Brown _ dyslexic. And you'll see the show live. And then if you follow the Buddy Martin Show, which we're all in the family here, you can watch our shows as we simulcast to the other networks. So sometimes you'll catch us on the Buddy Martin Show channel because we're just running it there as well. We're at 7 different profiles on 3 different social media platforms, and also expanding. If you are a podcaster, let me tell you, this is a great experience. We playlist most of this stuff, and we put it out in pocket. YouTube Music, which is the only app that I use. No, they're not paying for this. I love YouTube Music, and we show up there if you look for SEC Sideline Sports Network, Buddy Martin Show, what we did, all the different shows that we're doing, and more, because we're expanding, including Scarbo Knows. Skarbinski is going to be coming out once a week. Auburn Undercover Live with Ronnie Sanders, with Rob does with it, which is great because you have great conversations, all things concerning Auburn. And then obviously the Buddy Martin Show, we do a podcast with Urban Meyer during the football season. It's called Best Fridays in Football. And then this show right here on 5 days a week, every morning. How many days a year, Rob?
260 days a year.
260 days a year.
And then pop-up shows
and content. All of that stuff lives also on our YouTube channel, which you can go to YouTube and just search for SEC Sideline Sports Network. We will pop up and you will see all of that stuff. I know it's long-winded, but the idea, folks, is that we want to be everywhere because we cover SEC sports like
kudzu and cotton.
That was so good.
Here we go. Hey, and we'll wrap it up by saying, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and do things to help other people. We're all blessed. We can't do everything, but we can all do something. We'll see you in the morning.
Go
Thanks
fill
for
out your
watching.
brackets. Check on the QR
Ernie's
code right up
bracket.
there in the corner. I'll pop it up here in the end. All right. Good night, John Boy.
Good night. Have a great day.